Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining us from Las Vegas, Fox 40, Sean Cunningham. What's going on, Sean?
Oh, boys, it's good to see you. I'm surviving Las Vegas. This is my virtual postcard to the world that says, yes, I am alive. And I think I need to just have a residency here because I see so many entertainers throughout the strip that have residencies here. I spend far too much time in Las Vegas, and I do like the city, and it's been treating me quite well. But I need to get away from I need to lay low for the next few days. I think that's what I'm looking forward to most.
And of course, Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse, and the Kings Pulse podcast and Kings Herald. What's going on, Brenden?
Not too much, yeah. Enjoying myself out here in Vegas, and I think that Sean is lying through his teeth about laying low for the next few nights. I think I heard this same thing yesterday, and Sean was definitely out last night. There is a whole lot of Sean Cunninghams in Las Vegas, I will say.
What does that mean?
It's a great thing. It's just people I enjoy being around and having a good time with, you know?
Which we have not been able to do yet, and part of that is my fault. I can pull the curtain back a little bit, as you know, Brenden is staying, like, you know, there's a town outside of Las Vegas called Summerlin, another one called Henderson, and they're somewhat close to Las Vegas. I think Brenden is staying out by the Hoover Dam, which is a little bit farther, and he might be in Arizona for his commute. I'm not so sure, and in full-on transparency, like I landed it last Thursday. We're recording this on Monday. I landed on Thursday and immediately had 3 solid straight days of like 12-hour days for work. I mean, it was pretty tough, but I also find time to still get it in, if you know what I mean. So, and I go out, do my thing, and goddamn the Kings for having tip-off times at noon and 1 to just start off Summer League, because as you know, at Fox 40 we're doing newscasts in the 11 o'clock hour, and we have a big long one at 10 o'clock. So these guys get to go out and enjoy the day and the night, and then they're probably tired by the time I get ready to hit the town. I feel like I've done well, but I like the schedule coming up. There's some breathability in there, and I think we're going to be able to hang out, Brenden, because you need to experience Vegas.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure it out, Sean, because yes, you are starting by the time I'm kind of wrapping up. Woke up to an invite phone call one time, and I was already asleep when I got that one.
And it's great because, as James can attest, I do invite. I will. It may be late, but I'm a man of my word, so you do see the invite.
Yeah, I've hung out in Vegas with Sean a couple of times. We did have the one night where Jason Jones tried to climb the rock wall.
Yep.
Which
Failed.
Is some of the greatest footage of all time.
We're gonna have to be careful. We're gonna have to be careful with some of these stories, James. So tread lightly.
Tread lightly. Yeah. We've had some good nights in Vegas. It's been a while though since I've gone, and I don't miss it. While you guys were doing that, I was floating out on the lake. So I was having a good time while it was 113 there. Is that what it was?
The air conditioning, you don't feel it. And at night, I thought it was great last night. We were in there was a pool party kind of thing at the Wynn. There was a tip-off party, and Diplo was there, and it was by this pool. Everyone was having a good time. And ran into Alex Len.
Oh.
Had a nice little chat with Alex Len. Won't really go much more about that, but Alex Len was good to kind of catch up with him for a minute, and then
you can say Paris Hilton.
No, not this time, thankfully. But I will say, it was good. You have a lot of the NBA treating their people nice. Good chance to catch up with a lot of people. James was definitely missed, and I know Brenden was gonna go there.
Yeah, I got there, and I think some of the other people I was with were not the most excited about doing it, and I didn't want to ditch everyone. And it was already a little bit later in the day, and I heard that it ended at midnight, but there was an after party, and I just wasn't sure exactly when it was ending, so it was just a handful of things that made me end up not doing it, and just so I could watch Sean Cunningham's Instagram story in the morning and regret every decision I made last night.
I think you all should go to my Instagram story, because not only will you still be able to see what that atmosphere was like, and it was nice, but this morning I was able to take you all on the tour of House of Gaga, because Lady Gaga has a residency where I am staying, and had a nice trip with Pierre Nugent, two big Lady Gaga fans, going to check out House of Gaga, which is kind of cool.
Is she back there? Is she doing it?
She's not here right now, or else I'd be there probably twice. But yeah, no, she's not there now. Aerosmith was supposed to be here, but we know what all happened to Steven Tyler. Brenden, Aerosmith is this band who's now hard. Anyway, but they had to cancel, and so no, she'll be back I think later this year. I don't know, but it's good times.
Yeah. So right at the beginning of the pandemic, for my wife's birthday, which is my wife and I have the same birthday, but for her birthday, I had surprised her with Lady Gaga tickets on a Saturday night and Gwen Stefani on a Friday night in Vegas. And then the pandemic hit, and we have floating out there, us and some friends of ours, like a $2,400 voucher for Lady Gaga tickets. That's how much it was to go. So it's pricey to go see her. But yeah, we eventually will get to Vegas to go use those. But like we have a gigantic voucher trying to go back. It was a downer.
Yeah, that sucks. Sucks.
All right, people get upset. I don't know, whatever. They get upset if we don't get into the show at some point.
Pound sand.
What Sean said. Yeah, you know who you are out there. Go ahead. So if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. We're like flying towards 2,000 subscriptions on YouTube, which is amazing. We had one of the pods break 7,000 views last week.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're cruising and we're having a good time doing this, and we're going to carry you all the way through the summer. I'm glad you guys are going to be down there for another game. Sean, when are you coming home?
Not soon enough, man. No, I come back Friday, so I'll be able to see the big one. I think that's the Thunder, Chet Holmgren and the Thunder on Wednesday, and then I don't know who they play on Friday off the top of my head, but
Suns, right?
Yeah, I'm like the last flight out of town. I arrive in Sacramento Saturday morning, so it will probably be like my own private flight, because they might even cancel it. I didn't think about that, because who leaves Vegas at like 10 o'clock at night to go to Sacramento on a Friday night? Again, on a Friday night.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't end. It doesn't, like, the night doesn't end. So,
True.
Yeah. Huh.
We'll be all right. I'll be able to get to that final game, and I think that's an evening game too. James, you probably have the schedule in front of you. I don't, but yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'll be out here.
I think it's the Suns. They finished with the Suns, right?
Luke King.
Yeah, and Brenden, when you're heading out on Wednesday?
Wednesday night. I'm going to be rushing from the pressers to the airport, and then getting out of there. And hopefully Chet plays, because Paulo just got shut down today, and I'm hoping that's not a theme. Paulo's out now. Shaden Sharp is out. Jaden Ivey's out. Dyson Daniels out. People are dropping like flies. So hopefully we actually do get Chet and Keegan.
It appears that Sean is got to take a call. He's leaving us for a moment.
Paris Hilton needs help right now.
Right now. Paris Hilton is, of course, Sean is her personal savior. If you don't know what story that is, you got to come to a happy hour one of these days. Okay, so Brenden, let's just get straight into it, because clearly the Sacramento Kings are the Sacramento Keon Ellises, and I know that you're the biggest fan in the history of Keon Ellis. So you've got your own fan club started already. Man, has he looked good? It's just like, he's a 3-and-D guy. He's exactly what everyone needs, whether they can find it or not. Typically, the Kings can't, but man, he's got some upside.
Yeah, he's pretty dreamy, James. I'm kind of all about it. I think that anybody that hasn't been impressed with Keon Ellis would be pretty surprising to me, specifically on the defensive end. I think that he has left more to be desired offensively. He shot a lot of threes in these 2 games in Vegas. He went 5 of 6 in the first one. In the second one, he went 3 of 7. So he's 8 of 13 here. He went 2 of 10 in the 3 games at the Cal Classic. And I kind of asked Jordy about it yesterday post game, and he said that we were telling Keon that every time he's open to shoot the ball and every time he touches the ball, he's open. So you can see Keon getting more shots up. I think that whenever he takes more than 2 dribbles, it probably doesn't lead to great results. His decision making sometimes has left to be desired, specifically like in transition. But I think when he's just put in spots that he just needs to finish the play rather than keep it going necessarily, I think that he's been solid on offense. I swear if he's in front of the opposing bench that it's going down and he's going to turn and talk some crap on the way out of there. So if the offense continues to come around, then there might be something there, because defensively he is a pest and just disruptive the entire game long.
Yeah, it seems for whatever reason that, well, I mean, I guess it's coaching, that it feels like some of these guys have been completely empowered to just shoot whenever they got the ball. Everyone has a green light. And I think we've seen it with Keegan. We've seen it with Keon. We've seen it with Nemi. We've seen it with O'Connell. We've seen it with
Frankie Ferrari the other day.
Frankie Ferrari came out firing like, hey, where's that? We've seen it from McDermott. Sean, what we were talking about Keon Ellis while you had to get up and take a call, but I mean, first of all, did you save Paris Hilton? We're just wondering if you saved her in that moment.
Had a little mini crisis, and we're good now. I've got some people coming in, and we had logistics, and that was I had to make sure that they were good to go. So I think we're.
You talk
fine
like
now.
a mob boss, Sean.
Well, I have to be very. I like to. What's Law and Order? No, I can't say it. That's not what it is. I like to protect the innocent, if you know what I mean. Nothing incriminates me. Like there's no secrets for me. I'm out there, but some people look. Some people they like to be a little more protected, and just want to make sure that I'm in the loop.
All right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. It's fine.
Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas for Sean.
Yeah, man. For that matter, it's anywhere. We could be in Duluth, and I would have done the same. Brenden was talking about this. He was talking about questionable decision making. I was like, is he talking about me? Like this guy? I don't know.
I don't know.
No, I don't know who you were talking about there, but
Keon Ellis.
Keon. Oh yeah. Well, that dude. I tweeted it yesterday, man. That guy is a bulldog. I like him a lot, and I want to rewind weeks ago and I'm gonna take it on the chin here, because Brenden was talking about how he's gonna dive into Keon Ellis tape, and I've seen Keon Ellis a lot, like I had seen him, but I wasn't expecting much. Just okay, you're a summer league guy, you're gonna be a two-way player perhaps, and Brendan's like, I'm gonna dive into this, like, dude, just go get a life. Go find something to do with your life, your young life.
Go knit or something.
Go watch Swingers and hurry up.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I was, I figured we'd just dive into it when we get here to Summer League and all that. And it's translated really well. He's a little bit better shooter than I may have remembered. Certainly he's looking to push the pace. I think the defense is there, man. I want to see him and Davion play. I was talking to Davion, not to name drop. I was talking to Davion Mitchell just the other day about him, and his eyes just get all lit up. He's like, "That's the type of dog we need. That's the type of things that we need on this team." And it's so funny that, of course, he was shooting around at California Classic, and then he's always got a basketball here in Vegas, and the uber competitor. We've documented that so well, but I think he definitely admires what he sees in someone like Keon Ellis, who can show that type of tenacity on the defensive end.
Yeah, I'll say this. Like, I like what the Kings have done so far. Every move that they've made, I like Malik Monk. I like Kevin Huerter. I like what we're seeing from Keegan. I'm still waiting for them to make the defensive moves that they have to make, because while I like Keon Ellis and I think that he has a future, his future is not 2022-23. He's not the backup small forward to Harrison Barnes. And so that tells me that the Kings have to find defenders that will actually get on the court and play. And that's going to be a problem. I mean, again, like I can see an outline of something with Neemias Queta that I really, really like. But hoping that he's going to play 82 games a season and give you 13 minutes a night and make some defensive plays and stuff, I don't see it. I don't think that that's going to happen. That doesn't mean he can't play. It just means that this season in particular, you need to go out and you need to bring in some more pieces that change the defensive culture. And again, Keon Ellis can be one of those guys. He can be a guy that is a pest in practice and makes you better, but getting on the floor is going to be an issue in year one, at least I would think so, because that's kind of how the Kings do things.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Sorry, Brenden, just a second. Just the fact that I think people can hear us rave about somebody, and then all of a sudden in their mind's eye, they're talking so good about this guy. Boy, he might be a rotational player then, coming up. They might just all of a sudden get a little too far out over the skis there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, again, it is a two-way player. Lots can happen between now and whenever the season is. But I think what we really see is what this front office likes in the people that they try to acquire. I don't know if there's several common threads you tend to see. And I think it becomes pretty noticeable. You want competitors. You want people who really love basketball, and I know people hear that and they go, "Well, that should be a given." I think all three of us can tell people and look you right in the eye and say, "It's not always the case."
It's not really always the case.
No, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need competitors and shooters. That's why 50 Cent is right there in a Kings jersey. It's as good as it gets.
He was shot at, though.
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that brings us to Tuesday overreactions.
Where's the Tylenol, by the way?
What was more awkward? 50 Cent sitting courtside next to Vivek Ranadive, or Vlade Divac sitting courtside next to Vivek Ranadive?
Go ahead, Brenden.
Awkward? I mean, the 50 thing was shocking. Like, when he walked in, I was kind of joking around with people around me of who he was here for. And someone jokingly said, well, obviously he's here with Vivek. And sure enough, and for him to be wearing a Kings jersey later out on the strip, that was definitely the more shocking one. We've seen Vlade. We've seen him around the last couple of days here. And we've seen him around the team before. So I was definitely more shocked with 50 Cent talking. And Vivek and him are talking the entire time, too. It's not just
What do you think they talk about?
I mean, I think that Vivek is probably questioning some of his lyrics and, obviously just trying to understand his artistic process.
Is it process driven? Is there a thorough and process driven approach?
Have you ever considered jazz music, 50?
Get Rich or Die Trying. Love the album. Must say your Bulletproof Vest really stood out. And yeah, I don't know what they could talk about. I know people. I'm just making fun, but when he walked in, I knew he was here. Someone had told me he was, because every time I get to Vegas, it's look at who's playing in town, and I knew he was here. And when he showed up, it wasn't me being shocked that he was there to be courtside or even there to even sit next to Vivek and company. No, dude, that's a noon game, man. Like, why are you at this game? So I was like, once I saw it and I said, okay, that makes sense. Vivek wanted someone to sit next to, that's fine. But the overreaction with Vlade, perhaps because, I mean, who doesn't like Vlade Divac? Like, if you've ever spent any time with Vlade Divac, I know he's not, people look at him as a GM, and James, I like to disagree. I see your point when you say that him being a general manager taints his time in Sacramento and all that stuff. And sure, I guess, but I think people can compartmentalize and be hopefully have some common sense about them to keep the two apart. It's not like Vlade came in here and said, hey, let me totally jack up this team and ruin them. That being said, we get it. It didn't go well. But the funny moment for me was, and I actually have video, I was trying to pull Buddy Hield aside because he was sitting courtside. And he said he would talk to me, but everyone kept coming up and talking to him, and we just ran out of time. And so I'm talking to Buddy. Vladdy comes over, and I don't think they would mind if I shared this, but Vladdy just kind of instantly comes in, gives him a hug, and he says, "If not for me, you'd be broke." It was great.
I guess the question would be which one? Which one said that?
Vladdy to Buddy, yeah. But I get you for sure. No, I mean it was all in good fun, and it was I think Buddy was having fun. The awkward moment was kind of seeing Tyrese Halliburton there, who obviously feels a little way towards the organization. I don't think that he's talked about how it moved on, but in the interview I had with him afterwards, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like right at the very end, I was kind of getting him to see like, is there still that kind of fire against the Kings, that kind of thing. And right after he goes down, he has that quote where he says, I asked him, I was like, oh, well, you were loved by Sacramento. Does that ever kind of go away, or is that still special to you? However stupid way I asked it. And he says, no, my feelings towards the organization and the fans are different. And it's like, well, that was damning, And it was, and then he goes and he kind of daps up Wes and Monty, and they were cordial, and it was fine. And there might have been a little awkwardness to it, but I think everyone feels that they're in a good spot right now, and Tyrese is definitely happy and pretty excited about what the future holds in Miami, in Indianapolis. Oh, bless you, James. That was a good one.
Bless you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm better, but I'm not all the way better. Yeah. It's weird that we're always going to have the Tyrese Halliburton like awkwardness, which is too bad. But when it comes to Wes Amani, I would be fully I would get why he isn't exactly enamored with those guys, because I know I had conversations within the walls of that organization days before the trade deadline, and I'm pretty sure he was told he was not going anywhere, and then he was traded. And things happen. I fully understand that, but there are also ways that things get handled, and at least they did tell him before. He didn't learn about the trade via Twitter or anything else, which is good. Brenden, you ran into him too, right?
I ran into him later that night. Yeah, just randomly kind of said hi.
You guys smoking stogies and playing blackjack?
Of course, the entire time. No, just quickly ran into him wandering around the strip and said hi, and that was it. Didn't want to bother him all too much. People coming up to him left and right, I feel like, and especially at the games, like so many people coming up to those guys, just didn't want to add on to it,
Yeah, did you ask him about his defense?
No, he knows that he sucks. It's all right. It can go unsaid.
He knows that he sucks.
Oh, man.
Shots fired, man.
Shots fired by Brenden, yes. Okay, so we've been, bouncing around. What have your guys' thoughts been on Queta? Because, I mean, to me, he hasn't played himself into the rotation, but he certainly has played himself into a conversation about, being part of the team this coming year. We haven't got any direct, note from the team yet. Have either of you guys heard anything about the calf injury? Is it anything that's going to keep him out?
Only that Jordy said that they don't, at least this is yesterday. Now, the Kings are off today, Monday, as we record this, so I think they'll know a little bit more about it. I mean, I don't think it would shock anyone to not see him play anymore, especially considering he played last year. And I think, as we talked about last podcast, well, I know you guys were able to record one when I was traveling, but the last one I was a part of, we asked that question, and I was a little disappointed in what we saw from Queta at the California Classic. I think he's kind of fixed some of those errors, fixed some of those shortcomings. I think he was trying to be a little bit too, I need to be the guy in some of those moments. I think he was having a hard time holding onto the ball. I think a lot of those things were changed a little bit. I don't think he looked right yesterday in the Pacers game. For a good portion of the game, he looked uncomfortable. That said, he was very dominant defensively, especially defensively. 2 huge blocks. He clogged up the lane. He was performing very well. But if you watched him pretty closely, he just looked like he was in discomfort. Now, to hear that it was a calf injury was surprising to me, because it kept looking like he was just stiff around the back or the lower back or the hips. And then when he walked off, I think there was concern that there was an ankle injury. I didn't see anything turn. I don't even know what play it happened on, but again, I just didn't feel like he was playing it as he was moving as if he was dealing with some discomfort. Is just a
Yeah,
long-winded way of saying it.
I saw it about 3 plays earlier where it was like, oh, someone needs to call a timeout. There's something wrong. I was thinking it could have been cramps. I mean, easily it could be cramps. I
Yeah.
think that would be the hope, but you don't know.
But
Yeah,
even I'm saying even this goes back even to warm-ups. When he was warming up, he just looked like I don't know, like maybe slept on the wrong side of the bed. Who knows? I don't know what, but it looked very around the torso area where he was having just some discomfort and couldn't get loose. Could be completely speculative and it could be completely unrelated, but that was my kind of feeling about it even before he left the game.
Brennan.
Yeah, before he went down in that one, I mean, that was the best game that he'd been having through that. 16 and a half minutes, he had managed 5 blocks and 12 points and 7 boards. I was shocked at the end of the Orlando game to find out that he had 23 and 8. Like, he felt good, but I didn't know he put up those type of numbers. I thought his finishing specifically has been really good. I think I kind of mentioned it in the last pod. I felt like he was more finesse and less physical than maybe I would have wanted. But there is value in those finesse finishes. He had this really nice reverse layup in that Indiana game yesterday. He's been a really solid finisher around the rim with both hands, and he's pulling out the jumper a little bit here. He obviously had that big one at the end of the Orlando game, and then also pulled one in the Indiana game. He also had a couple mid rangers after he hit one. I think he was kind of feeling himself a little bit, but they were going down. I don't know that that's a shot that I'm gonna want to continue to see necessarily, but it was going okay.
He pulled the trigger on that one top of the key, the three, and then did the Jordan shrug. Like, did you not just see me bury that game that to help force overtime against the Magic just yesterday?
And what
Yeah,
he said, he told Emmanuel Terry and someone else, like, you don't know me,
Paolo.
bro. Oh,
Yeah,
was it Paolo? It was Paolo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Paolo said
No,
you weren't supposed to hit that, and he said you don't know me.
yeah. He said you don't know me, bro. Yeah,
Yeah,
to be honest, like, I've been so impressed with him. I was harsh on him about the California Classic. I didn't think he was dominant. I didn't think he was physical enough getting to the boards. I thought that he got outworked a couple of times. And I'm starting to think that it could possibly have been that he was thinking too much about new terminology and new ways to do things and new play calls and new things that he had just learned in the days before. And then by the time we got to Las Vegas, he was like, okay, I got this stuff. And I'm going to go back to who I should be, which is a gigantic man dominating the paint. And so I thought he was very good in the 2 games before he got hurt. Um, I don't know. Like, the 3 that he hit was huge. But the blocks, what did he have? He had 2 blocks in one play, uh, and that was just spectacular. I think he looks like he belongs. And I also will make this claim, which you guys can blow me away for. But when I watch him play, he has a lot of the same tendencies, the same play style. He's not anywhere near as good, but some of the play style and tendencies of Sabonis. And I think he actually might fit better with the Kings than some of their other center options. Because when you pull Sabonis off the floor last year, we saw, like, the offense just look so atrocious. And I think you can still run the ball through him. He still sets all those picks. He's active. He's big. He can go get rebounds. He can block shots. Again, he's the closest thing you have to a player like that, as opposed to Holmes or as opposed to Len, who are 2 totally different types of centers. And it's good to have variety, but if you were to lose Sabonis for any length of time, it also would be good to have somebody that you could continue to run the same play sets through, who can handle some of it. He's not going to get the 6 or 8 assists, but he is going to get a few. He is a good passer. He is an incredible screener, and he's also a guy who he knows how to clear space for a guy and give him room to shoot.
I think right now I still do view him as the 4th center on this roster, and until I see it proven at the NBA level a little bit more consistently. Like, I think the speed of guys that he's guarding, like I specifically remember last year seeing Jared Allen just blow by him so easily multiple times, and kind of almost give him almost felt like a lesson right there. And he's talking about switching on the perimeter a lot and switching on guys, and it's okay. I think it's different at the next level though. And the physicality still, while he has all the tools, because the only guy is more physical that we've, or at least more in better shape and bigger, stronger, should be able to enforce their will a little bit more. The only two guys that I think stood out more than Nemi are like Paulo Banchero and freaking Miles Garrett, who's messing around doing warm-up dunks. Like, Nemi is absolutely huge. So I think there's still an adjustment to NBA physicality that I want to see. And I'm a little more cautious about the whole, I see people saying like maybe he should play over Len. And I don't know that I'm there yet. Maybe that could become a thing this year, but I think I'd still need to see it at the next level. This has been encouraging for sure, but I'm still going to hold off a little bit before I'm thinking he's in an NBA rotation quite yet.
Brenden and I are in complete agreement. I think, the G League serves him well. I think being around this team serves him well. And I think there were some people surprised that he was going to be on Summer League again. That being said, I think even if he didn't have the calf injury, I feel like we've seen enough, at least from a Summer League standpoint with Neemias. I also want to see maybe what this team does a little bit with some of the, like if they go smaller, so maybe not having Neemias on the floor there, getting a look at some of the other players in there could be kind of interesting. But like I don't think it's necessary for Neemias to continue to play, especially now that he does have the injury. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the pump the brakes with maybe he can be that backup center. I just don't see it. I think there's some. I think he can do better, but I do feel like he has a nice feel for the game. I think you can see things kind of slowing down a bit, and I like the chippiness that he comes into. Like he's not so much with the officials. Like I think every time he gets called for something, he's barking at them, but to the point of knowing where the spacing should be on the floor, both offensively and defensively. I know Frankie Ferrari has been in his ear so much. I remember seeing that at the California Classic, where of all the people that Ferrari continues to talk to and be in the ear of, it's Queta. And I love what Frankie talked about Nemi yesterday in talking about just his feel for the game and what he brings and kind of the development that he's shown. And as you mentioned, Frankie's somebody who's played against him in the G League and has seen him grow. So both mainly as an opponent. So now here he is as a Summer League teammate, and I think there's a lot to be encouraged by for sure. I just don't know what it looks like yet, and I think the good news is I think there's some people that are looking at him. I mean, he was the buzz of the game. I mean, there's a lot of people. We had some reporter who came over to the media availability. Usually gets a couple reporters, national, whatever, but there hasn't been many. I mean, Brenden can attest to it. I mean, it's basically been your usual suspects for local journalism in Sacramento. There hasn't been, in my opinion, too many bloggers or people international, whatever. And I think it was Nemi that really brought people over yesterday because they didn't even know his name. They're just calling him out by number 88.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to be in the rotation and ready to play major minutes for the Kings this year, but at the G League level, I would be shocked if he didn't average like 20 and 10 with 3 assists and 2.5 blocks. And at some point, he's going to get some looks, especially if you have injury issues or if you need to make a trade with either Holmes or Len, including Len as like an expiring deal or with Holmes as, you're going out and getting something for Holmes. So I at least think that you have something that you can, it's moldable clay. And I like the progression. Like his body looks so much better than it did last year. I mean, when he walked in the building last year, for the introductory press conference, he just looked like he was dragging around his lower half. He looked like his upper body and his lower body wasn't connected, that he needed to do a lot of core work. I see a lot of that has tightened up, which is why he's been so much more versatile on the defensive end and chasing guys down. There's still like 3 more steps he can take. And the good thing is I kind of feel like the Kings want to be there to help him make those steps and help him carry forward. So it's good. Like, this is what you want to see, is a young player progress and start to get better, and the Kings still have his rights for a couple of years. I know we see craziness on Twitter where people are like, hey, if you're not going to play him, just trade him. And it's like, it's because a lot of people just don't understand the progress of, like, there is a time-tested, thing about how you bring along a player like this, and you spend a lot of development time trying to fill a lot of the holes in his game, and then when he steps on the court, you're hoping that he's going to be able to produce. And so I'm okay with what the Kings are doing with him, and I hope that he does get some burn later in the season. But if he doesn't, it's probably because the Kings are better than what you hope they are. And, so if he doesn't get to play, it's because of that. It's not because he doesn't have a shot to make it. I think he does have a shot to make it. What that means, I don't know. But I do think he's big, he's strong, he's got soft hands, he's athletic. He seems like a great teammate. I hit Sean up because there was a moment where he lost a tooth, and then he found the tooth and set it on the scorer's table, and then after the game he went to go grab the tooth and it was gone, and then everyone at the scorer's table, I guess, was looking underneath the scorer's table for Neemias Queta's tooth. They finally found it, and then he has a dental procedure set up for later in the week or something. But
what game was this?
That was the Orlando game.
It was the Orlando game.
Wow.
Yeah. Cassidy Hubbard talked about it on the broadcast, and I hit Sean up like, hey, man, you might want to follow up, because for video, that's going to be a good story for him to tell. And I don't know if you were able to get him, but I could just see him smiling with a big tooth missing. I mean, Sean and I both covered, what was his name? Cole Aldridge.
Well, I thought you were going to say Ron Artest. Ron Artest, famously, in a practice, they're scrimmaging, and he gets his tooth knocked out, and he's, Reggie Theus is telling the story, and he's literally picks it up, and he's got it in his hand, and he's just wrapping it in paper or whatever, but he didn't care. He threw it off to the side and kept playing. It is funny, James, and I should bring up on my computer here, I probably have the video. We talked to Neemias after that game, in the Orlando game. I didn't know the story at the time, but I do recall looking at his mouth wondering, there's something going on there. And I was like, I just wondered, I was like, did he always have that? Or maybe I'm now just seeing it, and I wasn't going to just go, hey, man, what's going on with your grill there? So it was completely out of my mind 24 hours later, and I'm glad you texted that, because I didn't know the story. I was very amused by it, though.
Yeah. He's a big dude, and I hope that it works out for him.
Understatement of the century. He is a big dude.
I think every game we've played, he's by far the biggest guy out there.
Yeah?
We've played?
Yeah, he's huge. Not we, that the Kings have played, that we've witnessed.
Yeah. There we go.
We've witnessed. There we go. The one I want to see is Jalen Duren, and we're not going to get to see it because they're not going to match up, but I would like to see how they sort of next to each other. But even still, I think Jalen Duren isn't a true 7-footer. Queta's a big, big dude. And again, I think he's got a good spirit, and I think he's here for the process. He wants to get better. He wants to learn how to play, and he hopes that there's a potential for him to find a spot with his team long term.
I want to see him stand next to Chet.
Yeah.
Because that would be...
I want to see him grab Chet by the ankles like the Hulk grabbed Loki and just start beating him against the ground. I think that would be fun, because Chet's just like this. Every time I see Chet, I still think of the wind thing, the thing outside of a tire store.
Like a sock puppet, yeah.
Yeah, the big air thing outside of a tire store, trying to get people to come in.
Kings did a good job of that. They had the media day. And you could go to the game. They'd actually have the you'd have to do that, the windsock puppet, as you were doing, and they had their Kings players do it, and that was a good bit during timeouts last year. You didn't like it? I thought it was funny. No?
As the
Yeah,
Portuguese of this podcast, I think I need to be advocating for Neemias a little bit more. I'm pretty sure he needs to play 36 minutes a night next year. Doesn't matter if it's next to Domas. It needs to happen.
okay.
Wow. So you should know what you should do is go have like Portuguese meals with him, because I remember last year when I sat down with him here in summer league, and he was like looking forward to. He was already hearing from a lot of places in Sacramento saying, "Come check out our Portuguese food," and so that would be a fun story.
I don't know that Brendan's a real Portuguese.
Yeah, are we
My
calling
last name
bullshit
is
on that one?
Portuguese. My last name is Portuguese. I don't know what we're talking about.
Portuguese.
I thought I was Portuguese my whole life until I found out recently that I wasn't. So I'm sticking with Portuguese.
Oh man, that sounds like there's some drama there. You want to talk about it?
No, we'll save it later. I'll tell you later, Sean.
All right.
You know, yeah.
Okay, so let's go through some of the other stuff that's going on. I guess we have this weird workout that's going to happen, or it's already happened, or something is happening with Shabazz Muhammad, Matthew Dellavedova, and Quinn Cook. We got it confirmed. I'm not sure what's happening there, but the Kings do need a third point guard. Cook is 29, and of course Dellavedova is 31 and hasn't played in the league in a year. They also need some depth at the wing, and Shabazz Muhammad can flat out score, but hasn't played in the league since 2017-18 season. He's, again, only 29 years old. He's been playing in China and the Philippines. I think in the Philippines he dropped like 60 and 19 one game. So he can score, he can rebound, but are we hearing anything there? Because you guys are there, I'm not, that's different from these guys?
They were there for the Orlando game and then not for the Indiana game, but I know they're spending some time around the team. I think the workout was a singular kind of one-off thing. You see that a lot in Vegas. Guys will just come in and meet with teams, and this ends up being a big hub for the entire league and teams to get much like pre-draft workouts at a combine. You get to spend a lot of time. You can go out to any of these, Impact or any ABC, alphabet soup type gym out here to work out a guy and see a guy work with a trainer or their agent and meet with them, and it's a lot like that. And those were some names that were eyebrow raising, but also someone like Quinn Cook, who is at least already in their organization and is being thought of more than just a G League player. And I know after speaking with him last year when he came to Stockton, I mean, you want to talk about a guy who's just so appreciative of the Kings being able to give him another opportunity, just gushing about the organization. And so I think he played pretty well when he was in Stockton, and I think they want to kind of get a little bit more look at him. And I don't know if there's much interest out there around. I'm sure there is in terms of G League talent, but I'm not necessarily thinking that. I don't know what the other NBA teams would be looking like with him, but if they've already got a familiarity with the roster, and he's somebody you could possibly see in a training camp,
And Quinn has a tie. He played with Mike Brown and the Warriors, so there is that as well. Brenden, what did you think of this list?
Yeah, I had forgot, as some people get here, so forgive any background noise.
Yeah, boy, what's going on over there?
Forgot that Quinn Cook was on the Stockton roster until you had said that, actually. I think that Quinn Cook is definitely a better shooter than Delly, and that's probably the way that I would lean, but I get that, like, if you're trying to set some sort of defensive intensity and maybe a little bit of a culture in that regard, that the Delly fits that way better. They're both very one-dimensional in my mind, and it's just like a break in case of emergency type thing with this third string point guard, right? I don't think it's anybody that's getting consistent minutes. It's just more of, if Fox or Davion go down, you need to have a backup plan. And that's what these guys are to me. Saw somebody report that Dennis Smith Jr. is working out with a handful of teams in Vegas as well. Who knows if Sacramento's part of that? Like, it would fit the whole guys that are available that are still young and have more room to grow from there. That could be an intriguing option. Between the ones that were mentioned, I probably lean Quinn Cook. I was surprised that Shabazz Muhammad was on that list. Like, are we sure it's not Shabazz Napier and they got the name wrong? Like, why is it 2 point guards and then Shabazz Muhammad here?
Dude, it was weird just seeing him courtside. Like, it's not weird to see a guy courtside. When I saw Dellavedova at first, I thought he was, working with a team. I didn't think he was at the time of seeing him. I didn't think that. And then it took me a minute to like zoom in. Like I was having a hard time with Shabazz Muhammad, and I remember his pre-draft workout when he came through here. I remember the type of player he's been, and it's just a guy who hasn't been on the radar for such a long time. So, but you think about the age range that they're trying to fit with people, and certainly if they feel that he can add some sort of toughness, a 3-and-D, maybe. But I mean, I think he can do a lot better.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. I'll tell you, last year, Quinn Cook in 11 games in Stockton, 35 minutes a night, averaged 23.5 points. He averaged 5.9 assists, 4.9 rebounds. He shot 44% from three on 6.8 opportunities a game, which was like he had 3 makes a game. So yes, he was impactful, and I wouldn't be shocked. I've also heard a couple of things. Number one, Dellavedova has become like almost like a coach on the floor for a lot of young guys, especially when his stop in Cleveland. Like he's almost like a development coach. He's a guy that has a lot of experience and a good head on his shoulder and is willing to take guys under his wing. And then with Shabazz Muhammad, I did some research too. He talked about coming back. I think he was interviewed in May about potentially making a comeback to the NBA. He said that he really struggled as a young player, that when you kind of lose your spot in the rotation and you've been sitting there for 35 or 40 games and you barely played at all, I think he became a bit of a problem, and he wasn't willing to accept the role of being a 14th guy or 12th guy on a bench. And, so he worked his way out of the league by not being someone that kind of fit in and figured out how to, work on his game and get better. He also gained a bunch of weight while he was sitting on the bench. Now he's at 220. He's worked hard to get his body in shape. He's 6'6", 220. He's still a bucket. I mean, he's always been a great scorer. He just has to do other things, and I think that was always the problem with him. Whether he gets a shot or not, either way, I would say this. The Kings could bring all 3 of these guys in. During training camp, you're allowed to have up to 20 guys on the roster, and you're allowed to carry 20 throughout the summer. Then you got to cut back to 15, and then your 2 two-way players. So you have a 17-man roster, but their 2 two-ways are already taken care of with Queta and Keon Ellis. There's always a possibility that one of those guys gets promoted to a roster spot, but I could see the Kings doing something like very minimal guaranteed contracts for some of these guys, bringing them in for $50,000 guarantee during training camp, and then seeing how they work out. And if they don't work, you just cut them at the end of camp, or you cut them 3 days into camp and say, hey, it's not working out, and we're going to go to a different direction. They all have a specific skill set, and whether any of them will work out or not, I have no idea, but at least they're turning over stones. That's what it seems like they are with Sasha Vezenkov, which I don't know if you guys have heard anything there, but the further along this thing gets, the less and less likely it is that he comes over this season. And I kind of feel like at this point, he's talking about, like, his people are talking about the biannual exception at $4.1 million. The Kings are looking more like at the a minimum scale contract, which is still a lot more than he's making in Greece. But the problem the Kings were always up against is this guy just won an MVP in the Greek league, and he's going to come here and be like the 9th or 10th guy in the rotation. And I'm not sure that he wants to take that step back, especially at 26 going on 27, and really just burning out the best years of his basketball life sitting on a bench in the NBA. And am I missing something? But I'm going to guess right now that dude ain't coming over. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Kings shell out the $4.1 million bucks. But again, a league minimum contract this year is $1 million in year one. Second year is 1.75. Third year is like 2.2. He signed a 3-year, 2.7 million euro contract in Europe, which the euro and the dollar are only a penny apart as of today, which is shocking. So it's almost the same contract. It's $900,000 a year. He would make a lot more money to come to the United States. and probably, he would be in the rotation, I would expect, but in the back end of the rotation. But it doesn't sound like that's what he's in here. Interested in.
Yeah, and then staying over there, you're a legit star. You know,
Yeah.
there's a different lifestyle than what you would get out here. I will say, talking to some people just throughout the past few days, they're not discouraged. The Kings are. The Kings are not discouraged about not being able to get him out to Vegas. It was something that that came on the radar, and they were hoping that they could do. But that not happening doesn't mean that they're discouraged. And I don't think they're going to be totally disappointed if it doesn't happen this year. I think they look to next year and stay. That they completely understand. They know his situation, but that they're just as excited to do something next year. And I think part of that could be just some of the way the makeup of the team and the way it maybe projects to be next year as opposed to this year, if that makes sense. Also, with just some of the things that are in the works that they all the irons they have in different fires presently, if you know what I mean, throughout the NBA. We're right now at a little bit of a standstill. It's like we were before the trade deadline last year, and we were all waiting on Ben Simmons and seeing how that was going to shake out. Well, now it's the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but mainly the Kevin Durant situation. So they're positioning themselves well. I think they'd like to be a part of things. I don't know that it's necessarily going to happen, but I think Monty, even in that press conference with Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, several times went out of his way to say, we're not done. And he always says it's never a done thing, but that they're hoping that, I think he's being very, very honest that they are hoping to do more. And they like the direction that this thing's headed. But when it comes to Vezenkov, from the people I've talked to, and maybe it's all window dressing, but it doesn't seem like there's much disappointment there. Like they're still just as encouraged as they were. But maybe the way they're projecting things out, if they can get him in, great. I think they'd love to do it. But I think even if it happens to next year, they're still going to be just as excited about it.
They're definitely having conversations.
Yeah.
Like they're still having conversations. I have heard that they're not done.
There is a deadline though coming up.
I think it's the 20th, July 20th.
I think I heard 2 weeks, so I think that's got to be it. But
it could have been the 24th. To be honest with you, it could have been the 24th. But I did see that there's a deadline for his buyout in Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that I know that from things I've heard, like the buyout thing will not be an issue. It's not something that is, that's something that they just already project for and good to go. So it's not like the money is holding it up. It's just negotiation. Again, this guy's coming off one of his best season yet, probably. I mean, the MVP, and you kind of understand the way things are, and culturally, it doesn't just work for everybody when they make that jump. So, I think having those conversations and keeping the line of communication open, even if it goes into next year, is something that'll be a accomplishment for them.
Yeah, even just looking at the roster right now, it's like hard to see exactly where his role would lie. I think of him as a 4. I don't know if there's an idea that he's a 3, but in my mind, he's a 4. And with HB, Keegan, Trey Lyles, Chimezie Metu, especially being that last one to me, I think that it wouldn't surprise me, obviously, if there was another move that maybe all of a sudden opened more space for next year to make sense. I don't think the biannual is the way to go about it, even though there's nobody else right now that I think I'd want to throw the biannual towards. I just think that next year you want to still be able to have that opportunity, and I wouldn't want to use that on Vezenkov. So maybe there's a move that ends up happening, and it makes a little bit more sense for him role-wise going into next year, because right now it's hard to exactly see where the opportunity would lie unless he came in and just instantly was clearly better than Trey Lyles and Chimezie Metu. And maybe that's the case, but also not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You got both those guys under 1-year deals, which is kind of what Sean's talking about. Like next year, the opportunity might be better, but maybe it won't, because next year, Keegan Murray could be a 33-minute-a-game guy, and there's 15 minutes left at the power spot, and you're not going to have any room for him there either. So I think we should all look at him and go, okay, if he ever comes over, it'll be interesting, and we'll actually get to see if he's got NBA game. If he doesn't, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. It was the 50, what was that, 49th pick in the draft is what they traded, and they got 1.75 million bucks in the transaction. So again, I'm not too concerned about what's going to happen with that spot. Outside of that, let's see what else. The NBA just made the play-in permanent, or they're going to today. What are your guys' thoughts? Love it, hate it, Brenden?
I already was operating as if that was what was going on. I was honestly was not aware that it wasn't a permanent thing yet. So I thought that it went well the first couple times they did it. I didn't like how different it was. I don't know. There was something about their traditional just 8 playoffs that I think made it a little weird to me at first. But going through it, I don't have an issue with like a 7 or 8 seed feeling like, oh, I'm one of the top half teams in this conference. Like I should easily get in. And it's like, no, I don't have an issue with having to fight for it. And it makes for good entertainment. Even if single elimination in basketball is not going to necessarily mean that the better team always wins, I think that it's entertaining, and I'm happy it's a thing.
It's the NBA's version of the wild card, and the wild card in baseball and football, they just work. It just makes things more entertaining. It's hard to argue against. The one thing that I would hope for adding this gimmicky play-in tournament, which I do like the fact that there is some separation in terms of a team that finishes 6, 5, 4, 3 and up. They get that little separation of schedule to just kind of reset, refresh. You're not thrown to the wolves right away, and you make it tougher for there to be parity to where someone can come in and take somebody down that way. That being said, I'm fully on board with it as long as there's no midseason tournament. I have no appetite for a midseason tournament in December or January or whatever the hell it is. I have no appetite for that whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't handle the idea of that. I just don't think it's conducive. They do it in other sports, but
this isn't soccer. Also, sorry.
No.
Also, I will say this too. I don't be surprised if, I just think this paves the way to possibly removing conferences later on down the road, and just doing a true 1 through 16, and then having your play-in tournaments however they take shape. So I don't know. I feel it's like a prelude to what is to come eventually, and certainly lends itself open to do that if they ever want to. I feel that they might, but I don't think it'll be imminent.
I also think we're missing one of the biggest points of it, and that is that it slowed down some of the tanking. You have more teams that are vying for playoff spots. Even if I think this last year, maybe the last 2 years.
I don't know. Did it
maybe
though?
It was there was a bunch of backup beepers going off the whole time, all these teams trying to get out of the play-in. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
and think about what you're about to step foot in this year, where you have a draft that's going to be really fantastic. You already see people trying to unload. Looking at you, San Antonio. Looking at you, Utah. There's all these teams that are already trying to set themselves up for future drafts and what have you. So I don't know that it did. To me, it felt like just no one wanted to be a part of it except for the Kings.
Except for the Kings.
They're the only ones who really wanted anything to do with it. So.
And I think New Orleans wanted to get involved. They wanted their young players to get some of that experience.
Early, maybe earlier in the season, but once things shaked out the way they did with injuries and obviously Zion not being right, I think at that point they're like, nah, screw it. We don't need to be in that.
Yeah, but they made the trade to out of all the teams that were around that area, they were the one that felt like, okay, maybe they're at least trying. I don't know. I'm okay with it. I don't it grows on you after a little while. I still hate the baseball play-in. I think the baseball play-in should be best 2 out of 3 because it's a 162 game season, and how do you get all the way to the end of that and 2 teams play literally just head to head, and a pitcher could have an off night, or someone could make some weird random error and it blows an entire season. I think that when you look at,
Baseball.
like, yeah, I guess, but like the NBA, it feels like the one game play in, maybe it does work, and I think it does. It gives the 8 seed a lesser advantage than typically. Like at some point, like the 1 seed deserves, the 1 and 2 seed, I think, deserve to have sort of a little bit more of an advantage, and because they are the best of the best for an 82 regular game season, yeah, whatever. Uh, but I see the value of it. Lastly, what was the other? What do you guys think about the fast break touch foul thing?
I mean, I like it. My question still is, what is the definition? Like, when do they have to call it? I think it's obvious when it is that call, right? Like, just off your own judgment. But they have to follow a specific wording for this rule. And I just want to figure out clarification on exactly when it gets applied, because I do feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but there's a hard line in place for referees that I don't have the most clarity on myself.
Yeah, I'm with you. I need more. I need some more education on it. I just, the thing that just sticks out to me most about anything where it's clear pass, fast break touch, whatever it is, you should be penalized pretty hard for that, because you're literally taking some enjoyment out of the game.
Yeah.
Like if you're the team that has to like do this so that guy can't break away and have this highlight spectacular dunk, which everyone pays tickets to see, and instead we're going to see some free throws, like that needs to be highly penalized. I don't know what the answer is, so maybe this is it, but I've got some questions, and I probably need to see a little more of what the thinking is with it. But I don't know, James, what do you think?
Yeah, because the clear path is almost like an offsides call in soccer. Like you can go to VAR and you can like see if the guy's arm is ahead. So the clear path is very specific and is very reviewable and obvious on a review, whether a guy is ahead of the other guy or what on the touch foul. This is kind of arbitrary. Like, hey, are they breaking or are they not? To be honest, if the Sacramento Kings are a team that's going to run, this actually could come in handy. This actually could play to the Kings' strengths a little bit more, where you do get to see De'Aaron Fox out on a break a little bit more, and Malik Monk and Keegan Murray, who is very good in the open court and all that stuff. So I'm kind of here for it. Like I do hate that the stupid touch foul, and it seems like my guy Omri Caspi might have been like one of the guys who did that like the most early on. It was kind of like the Omri move to like, oh, look, they're going to go for a fast break. Nope, I got you, and wrap you up. And so I'm kind of intrigued to see how they actually play it out, because they're diving into more of the arbitrary as opposed to like a clear line. And so, yeah, I'm not sure that it's going to be something that is well received all the time, but I like the idea of guys in the open court going for fast break dunks and, getting up and down the court.
Yeah, it was interesting to see like Jabari Smith Jr. foul someone after he had a tough play, and then like instantly you could see like, oh crap, I forgot that that's a thing now, because there's an adjustment of guys just forgetting that it exists. I forget it exists. I think there was one game we watched maybe at the Cal Classic that they called it one time and then they didn't call it when it probably should have been called the second time, and I was like, did the refs just forget about that? So there's definitely an adjustment period that's interesting.
Well, it's summer league refs too. I mean, you got some that are in the league.
We got Richard Jefferson refereeing today.
I know. I kind of want to go over there and see that, but I think it's right now, right? Or is it going on right now?
No, it's later tonight. It's the last game of the night, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, second quarter, right?
Yes.
Somewhere I have footage of Richard Jefferson in the locker room after they won the championship, just hammered. Doing an interview, and he's just lit.
Doesn't make him a bad guy.
No, I never put that out there, but yeah, he was having a good night.
As he should have.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay, let's finish with the business of basketball. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm. We are. But after this, I wanted to post something else, so don't let me forget, because I've had a long week.
We'll do that for your final thoughts. There we go. Okay, so the business of basketball. are they actually going to do another big deal? Because, I mean, even like Sabonis talked about it. Like, he put it out there. Monty McNair put it out there. Are they done? What do you guys think?
It's not going to be for lack of trying. Again, like you're going to try, but I think a lot of times it depends upon what else is out there. Like, what do the other team wants to do? Executing a trade, especially a good one, it can be really difficult to do. And I don't think people really realize it, how difficult things can be. And all you have to look at is like the max contract deal, right? Like that's a dynamic that exists that didn't exist years and years ago in making a trade. Things have become harder and harder with these max deals. So I think they're going to be very, very aggressive. They're going to try to. Then they, famously, as we always say, they link themselves together to everything. So they want to be talked about and be a part of something and find that optionality and be able to strike when you can. So I think the expectation is there. Whether or not it happens, we'll see. But I think they're going to try.
Yeah, definitely think they're going to try. And obviously, Harrison Barnes and Rashawn Holmes are the two obvious candidates in my mind, and it feels more likely that it's Harrison than Rashawn if I had to guess between the two. But from what we've seen with Monty, I think that at this point, I kind of think of them as somebody that's going to wait for the right offer, that they're not going to rush it. I do think it's probably a very good time to move on from Rashawn Holmes, but it takes two to tango. And if they don't have an offer they like on the table, I think we've seen from the past, like Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, that if they don't have something that they like on the table at that time, they're willing to be patient and kind of wait for it. So I'm definitely thinking that this could be how the Kings go into the season at this point.
Interesting. I think that they're gonna do their best to get involved.
James is not convinced.
No, I think that they're gonna swing for the fences still. I still think that they have something in their pocket that they're waiting to figure out what's the best way to approach this. And it's not just Harrison Barnes. I mean, Harrison Barnes is like
say that.
He's at $18.3 million, and Rashawn Holmes is at 11 point something. But you also have Chimezie Metu at 1.9. You've got $2.6 million in Trey Lyles. You got $4 million in Alex Len. The Kings still have a bunch of pieces that could work together to form, what is it, the Voltron?
There you go, Megatron.
Yeah.
Voltron and Megatron. There was a difference between the two. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, together we form Voltron. But yeah, Megatron was the king of it or whatever.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where you could see all of this was a cartoon in the 1980s, Brenden.
Is Megatron not a transformer? I don't know.
Megatron is and he's a Decepticon, right? Megatron?
Yeah. Megatron is a retired football player by the name of Calvin Johnson, who absolutely he's a Hall of Famer, and he hates his team, the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think him and Barry Sanders both hate the Detroit Lions. Yeah, which is sad because I love Barry Sanders. He's my favorite. I think that they still have a deal. I think that they still have one or two that they could pull off here, and they clearly need wing depth. Whether you're talking about trading Harrison Barnes or not, they still need a second guy that can play the three. They don't have another at this point. I mean, Kevin Huerter can play some minutes there, and Terrence Davis can play some minutes there, but you don't really have a backup. That's why we're talking about Shabazz Muhammad, who hasn't been in the league in 4 years. I think it's interesting. I'm going to guess that, yes, they are going to still try to swing for the fences. Whether they get one done or not, I'm not sure. Sean, let's go to final thoughts because you had something.
I did, and this is going to sound very self-serving, and I don't want it to be so. This is very Kings and basketball oriented and related. And I don't know that it's necessarily a final thoughts because really, I guess it does qualify because I've been kind of crowdsourcing certain people, and I didn't hit you guys up because I knew we'd talk about it on the podcast, but I wasn't able to join you guys last Thursday, and it was the day after I sat down with Fox and De'Aaron Fox. And I wanted to get your guys' takeaways on that because I have mine, and we'll certainly get to it. And I liked a lot of the comments from people that I saw on Twitter and the interactions, and a lot of Kings fans seem to really, really like it. But I wanted to hear what you guys thought of what you saw from De'Aaron Fox in that interview. And if you
Brenden, go
didn't see
ahead.
it, that's fine. Sorry. If I'm putting you on the spot, I don't know if you guys did see it. I would assume you did.
No, yeah, I definitely did. I think that it kind of, in my mind, confirmed something that I thought already was probably the case, that like the personality and, for lack of a better word, like vibe around the team is really important. And having guys that he's going to be around and on that roster, I think has a lot of value. Like in my mind, obviously the Buddy Bagley thing at the beginning of last year was kind of a dark cloud in my mind, over that team, and made for a bit of a weird environment. And I think having guys like Malik Monk that he really gets along with, the value of that not only on the floor but off, when you're just spending so much time as a team together, that part stood out to me a bit through that.
I'll say this, like physically, he looked completely different than he did when he walked into last season. I thought last season he had the swole going, and I don't know if he was out of shape completely or what, but like his arms, his shoulders were all like big and poofy, and like I have pictures of it, and it's like, okay, he looks totally different. That seemed to have gone away. His dedication to being around the team and around Sacramento, I think, is better, because clearly you were able to get him what you were with Gus, right? That's where I assumed you were.
Yeah, he was working with Gus Armstead.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he wants Luke Laux out visiting him on his honeymoon for 3 weeks when he's going to Italy for 3 weeks, that's a big deal. I think like it's interesting when you get a player come into Sacramento and they're 19, 20 years old and you watch them grow up. I think that's been like a fun thing to watch with Fox. And I've been doing this long enough that he's not the first person I've seen grow up in Sacramento. I mean, like DeMarcus Cousins, I've watched grow up from a 19-year-old kid to, what he is now, like a 31-year-old man. And so it's always kind of intriguing to see them when they're young and they got spiky hair and they talk about swiping right on Tinder. And then you get to a point where they're adults and they're getting married and their life is moving forward. So yeah, I enjoyed like his point of view. I thought he's calmed down. He's a tamer version. He still has that cocky edge, which I've always enjoyed. I think he's funny. I get it. I get his personality, that's how he has to be in order to like be the player that he is. So I don't know. Like overall, I like he seemed like he was in. He had bought in. So I don't know. What did you take away, Sean?
No, it's good to hear that. To go back to what Brenden said, I don't disagree with any of that. I will say though, like this is definitely the most excited he's ever been going into a season. I think that just leaps off the page, and that's not. I know Brenden was talking about the dark cloud with Marvin and Buddy, and it's really not that. It has more to do with, in my opinion, the pressure's off. I mean, this goes back to February. And mind you, we talked about how terrible season, came in bulky, wasn't used to that type of weight, which by the way, that won't happen again. I just assure you that will never happen again for him.
Yeah.
That you can add strength, but it won't be what you saw going into last season. Again, him having to learn how to play off ball, never had to do that before. You might see a little bit more of that, but you're definitely going to see the ball in his hands. I mean, that's just is what it is. I mean, Fox is best with the ball in his hands. He needs someone to be on him to keep his foot on the pedal. He can't drift. He can't drift away in games where he doesn't always keep the foot down. But more than anything, and we talked about this, like having Domantas Sabonis, it takes so much pressure off of him. It's the most talented player he's ever played with in the NBA, alongside. No slide on anyone else. You added the Malik Monk thing. Yeah, the relationship thing is huge. especially because Malik's coming off a career year for himself. So it's like two guys who came into the league, knowing each other since middle school, and this is, we've talked about it. Like when they traded Amon Shumpert and Justin Jackson, it wasn't just Shump. I mean, Justin Jackson was like his best friend. They knew each other for a long time. Shump had that chemistry, that energy around the team that was never really replaced, that never really got anybody there. So I think having somebody that knows him is going to push him. It shouldn't take that. It honestly should not take that to have somebody around the team to push De'Aaron, especially when you're paid the way you are and you're supposed to be that head of the snake, as they love to say. But it is true. Like I see that. The other thing I'll say too is you mentioned Luke Laux, and I know we've talked about that, and he's going to take Jesse Green with him to Italy as well. Him working out with Kings coaches is not something you would see a lot. Like if you just know the history, and De'Aaron doesn't keep a lot of people around him. He doesn't have an entourage. It's a very close-knit circle, and his agent is somebody he's known for a good portion of his life as well, and is a close friend of his. And they always say don't go into business with your friends or whatever, but he did, and it's worked out for him very, very well. That said, like he's got access now to different trainers that are allowing him. I don't know if he's allowing it to be around or what, but something's changed there a little bit. I think there's a little bit more of a tolerance and an open mind, and I think that's big going into this year. Yeah, there was a little bit of a takeaway there. I thought it was very, very interesting. I like a lot of the comments he made, but he was just so excited, and usually you don't see De'Aaron Fox super excited about basketball, and that just, to me, really it just leapt off the page. And so I'm glad that there was some feedback there. I know there's people who are disappointed at the season that Fox had. I think all three of us, you could count all three of us in that camp as well. But it was refreshing to talk to him. It was refreshing to talk to him away from the organization as well. I think just being kind of in a different environment, and that's why one of the things I talked to him in SAC. It wasn't in Vegas, and that's one of the things I like about Vegas is you have the ability to do things like that out here. So yeah, man, I think I was pleasantly surprised. Let's just say that I was, and I think Kings fans should be encouraged by it.
Yeah, I'll say this too. Like, I remember his second season, coming into his second season, he was so incredibly good. All we heard about was, oh my gosh, like he's taken such a huge leap. And then, the last year of Dave Yeager, you're like, okay, like he was so good. And you saw like there's this potential for him to be great. I think the last 2 years, even for someone who covers a team, it's been such a harsh reality walking into the season that you just know they have no chance of being good. Like, not to be disrespectful, but when you have a free agency class that's Hassan Whiteside and Glenn Robinson III, and you literally walk into a season with like 6 players, maybe even 5 that are actual players, that's brutal. Like, I don't even know how, if you're a player and you're watching your team do this, that's horrible. And then you walk into last season, and I think it's the same thing. You walked in going, man, we have a chance to be okay, but to be good? Not really. And we got these guys that don't want to be here, and it makes me not want to be here. Like, if you're a player, I think that this is the first year where it's like, okay, we added an all-star. We're bringing in players that make sense. We're bringing in players that actually help, that are fit players, that are guys who are going to make us better as a team. This is me thinking De'Aaron Fox was thinking. I think this is a moment where it's like, maybe I can't be successful here. If he, from his point of view, maybe he can be.
And to take it a step further, James, I actually put the thing I'm about to say even higher about on it. You mentioned, the disappointment of additions that they made. Certainly, I think the additions this year that gives them excitement. But I think there's an energy around Mike Brown that no disrespect to even Dave Yeager, Luke Walton. I just feel like there's a level of expectation that is just right in the forefront with this team right away. And I think there's already a system in place. There's expectation. There's just, Mike Brown. This isn't exclusive to Mike Brown. Luke Walton did this too. I mean, he'd go and meet with guys in different cities and things like that. They'd have coaching staff members go out and do it. But Mike Brown doing it during the postseason of a dynasty of a team that he's involved with, and being as hands-on and involved as he was during that time, even though he was trying to deflect, and then he says at the press conference, like, no, we're very hands-on. I think that's gone a long way, and I think there's just an energy around Mike Brown that a lot of these guys respect. Call it what you will, but I feel like there's just a different type of vibe around this head coach than previous head coaches, I should say.
All right. No, I totally agree. I think, watching Mike Brown on the telecast, he's just so fun, so full of energy, so full of love. I mean, a big shout out to Mark Jones. The work that Mark Jones has done this week for Sacramento, I think is remarkable. He's on a national broadcast, dropping 8 different restaurant suggestions. I will say this, Mark. You said Louis Vuitton so many times that now everywhere I go on the internet, all I get is Louis Vuitton ads on my laptop because it heard you talking. Thanks, bro. I'm not buying any of that stuff because we're reporters here. We don't have that. What did they say? They had some line about his shoes.
James has 2 boats. Remind you, James has 2 boats.
I do have 2 boats. Yeah. You guys will have to come up on the boats as soon as possible, as soon as you get back. But yeah, I just think that there's a different vibe. I think there is, and I think a lot of that is on Mike Brown and the smile and the energy that he brings. It's different. I can't remember someone who has this type of energy coming in the building, and I think it's good. Okay, so Brenden, do you have any final thoughts?
I thought it was hilarious yesterday watching Wiseman's debut, and that's clearly what everyone is there for. And I'm sitting there being like, holy crap, Robert Woodard's on the Spurs? I gotta watch Robert Woodard right now? And I totally forgot he was on the roster. I'm pretty sure he had a breakaway dunk in this game against Jabari. I was way too excited to watch Robert Woodard, admittedly.
Is Neemias anywhere?
Not that I know of. I saw him post something on Instagram today. He's working out somewhere. But most recently, from what I know, last year he was on the OKC Blue G League team. And I don't believe he's on a Summer League roster.
That's not a good sign for him.
Yeah.
All right,
Justin
Sean.
James was. How about that with Orlando? A lot of familiar faces on Orlando. I can't believe we didn't spend any time talking about Keegan Murray versus Paolo Banchero and that just unbelievably long, unnecessary game that went to sudden death. That was first of all, Summer League classic.
That was incredible.
Not that there needed to be, but it was a Summer League classic. It was the best. It was the most intriguing game I've ever seen in Summer League. And to take it a step further, sudden death is weird, but weirder is the fact that this game took 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's brutal.
That and Jordi Fernandez literally called up a play for Neemias Queta to shoot a 3 from the top of the key. Brilliant.
No,
maybe that's not what the plan was, but
it wasn't. No,
I asked him post game, was that the first option? He was like, obviously not, but it worked out.
Yeah. It was like when Chemezi hit the corner 3 and went from that Fox pass, and it was like, was that the plan? It's like, sure, that was the plan.
Yes, it was, yeah. Just how
but it was fun though, wasn't it? I know you guys were there. Is this thing ever gonna end? And to have the timeout called in the sudden death, I thought was crazy. And then, it looked like the Kings got jobbed. I watched it a million times, like everyone else.
That was a block.
I don't think so. There was body contact. He hit the arm as well.
James, you're the only one that thinks that the Kings got jobbed, right? Brenden, you thought it was a block?
I think it was a block. It's one of those hand is part of the ball type things.
Yeah, but I mean, I had the replay again and again and again where you guys were there in the building.
They played it. They played it on the board several times.
Yeah.
And now I don't know if we got every angle. I didn't want to go. I wanted nothing to do with that game. Going back and watching it again. But and the other thing too. Like, how about two things stand out? Again, I can't believe this is the first time I ever really broke down a freaking summer league game. But Emmanuel Terry's block to go into sudden death was incredible. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, he blocked Keon. Keon had that fake dribble handoff.
Oh my
Keon
goodness.
Probably could have dumped it off to the big, but
probably should have. Right? Probably should have.
He made a couple of mistakes. He hit the bank shot, but he also fouled on the 3-point shot. He made a couple of mistakes there.
The bank was crazy, and I thought, obviously you got what Neemias and Murray did with their threes, but how about Ade Murphy to force that turnover? I mean, Ade Murphy has been all over the place, so I thought that was pretty fantastic, and I didn't think he got enough credit for some of that stuff. He was pretty big in that session. So
he forced 2 different turnovers. There was a different one, I think, at the end of regulation. That he also forced. It seemed like it was kind of out of hand because Orlando was up 18 in that game.
Dude,
I want to say early fourth, late third.
No, they were up 18, and I believe they were up 16 with just under 3 minutes to go. It was like 2:46.
They had that the back-to-back plays where Matt Coleman just flat out stepped out of bounds. Back-to-back plays. Like, come on, man. Like, there were some. The reason why that lead got big so fast was because it was like the other guys, the other outside of your standards.
Right. Yeah. But to that point though, you closed a deficit of like 16 within like 2:46.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's just insane.
Jordi Fernandez coached his ass off. He did. Like he had his guys like, we are not going to give in. We are going to keep fighting all the way to the, like, that is the one thing I took away. If that's a team that walks into this season, you're going to at least, just without even dealing with talent increase, you're going to win 5 more games if you're a we don't quit all the way down the stretch team. And I hope that that's the personality this team has, because it's a personality that we've seen from Memphis for like the last 3 years. Like, Memphis will foul you 6 times in the final 40 seconds. They don't care. Like, they're going to play it out. And I hope that the Kings, we get to that point. I don't like the idea of being like even an hour later every night after games, but I definitely see a way that, like, if that carries over, bleeds over at all, I like that mentality. This team has been lacking that mentality.
Banchero and Murray were going to go one-on-one, and then he called that timeout, and the place booed. At first I thought they were pissed because this game was taking forever, and I think it was the Knicks. Was the Knicks next, or was the Clippers? I couldn't remember. Whoever it was coming out of Detroit, that's right. They were standing in the tunnel for like 25 minutes.
Okay, and I'm going to finish with this. I know Brendan's got to go. We keep dragging this out. There was a photo that went out with Ballmer. Did you guys see this? It was Jerry West sitting next to Steve Ballmer, and then someone that no one knew who he was, and then Kyrie Irving, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you see this?
I did not see this photo.
Okay. Well, the guy that was sitting in between Kyrie and Steve Ballmer, like, people were making fun of him and like giving him a hard time because he's a tall, white, bald guy. Sean will know who I'm talking about, but I will just tell this to the people out there. Number one, that guy sitting there is a Kings fan. Secondly, he's a huge NBA fan and was living out an absolute dream sitting 2 seats down from Jerry West and getting to say hello. So he's sitting in between Steve Ballmer, the guy who gave you the Zoom, like that stupid little. This was a bad iPod in the 2000s, Brendan, before you were born, I think. But Sean knows what I'm talking about.
The Zune was cool, man. I actually had
Zune. There we go, Zune. Right?
Yeah.
He's sitting between him and the Flat Earth guy who destroyed a franchise because he wouldn't go get his vaccination, right? And the guy sitting there is one of Sean and I's friends. He took us out to dinner one time. I'm not going to name drop because I don't want to do that. But people should understand that he is one of the most incredible dudes ever. He is not only is he a nice guy who took Sean and I out to dinner with his wife, and they took us to a steakhouse and dropped like I don't even want to know. It was probably well over $1,000 on us one night. You remember that, Sean?
Nope.
You don't remember?
No, I do. I remember.
Yes, of course. But also, I just want people to know that he is an eye surgeon that flies all over the world, like on weekends, and they set up clinics, and he flies in, and he does incredible work to give people sight in like third world nations that haven't been able to see forever because they don't have eye doctors where they live. So he'll fly in for a weekend, spend like 36 straight hours doing eye surgeries on people. Some of these places, it's so bad that like they have people who have not had sight for like 15 or 20 years, and he only has time to fix one of their eyes, but they come away with like having vision again. And he does this all on his spare time. He's one of the good people in the world. So if you're one of those a-holes who are out there making fun of the guys hitting by Steve Ballmer and Kyrie, just know that right there is a tremendous human being that has done incredible work for the world and does not deserve to get made fun of on the stupid Twitter.
And just a huge Kings fan.
Huge Kings fan. And a huge NBA fan.
I didn't know he was there. I actually passed him and shook hands with him. And every time I see him, I go, I know that guy.
You know that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I go, and it takes me just like 2 seconds. And I go, hey. But yeah, we were heading over to do post game for the Orlando game, and I saw him, and I wish I was able to kind of catch up with him a little longer than I did. So if he is listening to this, sir, you are appreciated, and
yeah,
look
good
forward
people
to
out
talking
there.
Yeah, for sure.
Good people out there. Yeah, he's done as much or more for the world as the two one's a billionaire and one's a multi-millionaire. He's done a lot of good work for the world. So
and then there's Kyrie Irving.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. Exactly, Sean. Exactly. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap. That's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Hey, thanks for joining us from Las Vegas, guys.
Hey.
Of course. Glad to do it.
Thanks.
And Sean is wearing a spectacular shirt.
Yeah, man. Once upon a time in Hollywood. This is a meme. Here I come.
Oh, yeah.
It's Leonardo DiCaprio, Brenden. DiCaprio is a big famous movie star that... If you haven't seen that movie, you should see that movie. He's really good.
Yeah,
he usually has a very young girlfriend, supermodel usually, but you know.
Brendan's just also pissed that we have in the movie Titanic.
Yeah, where he had plenty of room to get up on that goddamn headboard that Rose was on, but instead he had to keep his ass in the cold water. That was trash. Plenty of work, plenty of room up there. Titanic takes with Sean Cunningham.
That's right. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back later in the week with another episode. The Kings will have another game on Wednesday. We'll have some sort of reaction or something on Thursday. But thanks for tuning in to the Kings Beat. So for Fox 40's Sean Cunningham, and of course, Brenden Nunes from the Kings Beat and the Kings Pulse podcast, I'm James Ham, your Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We'll see you very soon.